Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Curious Realms continuing coverage of the Texas UFOCon here in Jefferson, Texas. We have the great pleasure of being joined by Chris James. He is the author of UFOs and also the head of the Laredo Paranormal Research.
Not the head. I'm the researcher.
Researcher for the Laredo Paranormal Research Association. So tell us a little bit about how you got into the world of paranormal research to begin with, Chris.
Well, I've been interested in the paranormal my entire life. I don't know. I was that weird kid that was always reading about vampires. And as I got older, I decided, well, I'm going to get into law enforcement for a bit. And I joined the Border Patrol, 26 and a half years.
Wow, thank you.
When you're in law enforcement, you don't talk about things like that. You don't want to have the reputation of being the guy that sees things or is interested in things like that. A friend of mine, Ishmael Quayer, he was the deputy warden at our local jail. And I knew him, he knew me. We talked about anything on the planet except paranormal. Well, finally, I went to the Laredo UFO conference in Texas A&M, and I ran into him there. It's like, what are you doing here? I'm one of the speakers. Oh.
Interesting.
It turned out we were both very interested in ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, but we didn't want to talk about it because I didn't want him to think I was weird.
Yeah.
He didn't want me to think. Well, he was the founder of the Laredo Paranormal Research Society.
Fantastic.
And he was looking for somebody to write a book about them. I was like, well, I've written some fictional books.
All right.
I can maybe knock out a nonfiction book. What can possibly go wrong? Famous last words. Nonfiction comes from in here. It flows down your arms and into the keyboard. It doesn't have to make sense. It just has to make the story flow. Nonfiction has to make sense. It has to be believable. Yeah. If you have a unbelievable experience, you have to make it believable. This is where we were. This is what we saw. This is what we saw it with. This is the way we investigated it. Yep. This is the proof.
Well, and you know, it's interesting that you bring that up. We recently at MUFON spoke with UAPPD, which is a group out of Arizona of former law enforcement officers that are basically trying to come forth and set up the same thing that Arrow set up for the military, where it's like, here is a reporting system for law enforcement officers. Because once again, if you were to go out on an investigation and let's just say as an active law enforcement officer, that is something that surely a defense lawyer would absolutely eviscerate your testimony on the stand about. You know, so I understand that last week you actively went out and took a UFO report. You're a believer in UFOs, right? You know, these are things that can totally sink cases, things like that. So the idea of, once again, even taking a report as an investigator, how often do you lean on your experience as a law enforcement officer when it comes to taking a report in from an individual, Chris?
It's a skill. Yeah. You learn to look at the person, the way they're speaking, the way they carry themselves, the way the story flows. Yeah. You listen to the words they use, but as they're using it, you look at the way they present themselves. And as you're doing this, you're back of your mind, it's saying, that's true, that's not true. That's something he heard somewhere else. It's a true story, but it's not his, that kind of thing. Sure. And so a lot of times, especially when I'm writing my books, I'll interview dozens, hundreds of people. Sure. And I have to sit there and decipher, is this person believable, or is this person just, they want to speak in public. Sure, there are people like that,
and there are, and it especially as an investigator, it can be hard to separate that wheat from the chaff. Yes, when it comes to the attention seeker versus the actual experiencer.
Most people aren't very good at lying. Yeah. They are not good. The people that are good at lying, most of them have been elected to office somewhere.
Yeah, no, they're actual sociopaths that we've put in charge of something.
True. It's amazing how that works. If I hired somebody to do a job for me, and they said, okay, I'm finished, and you looked outside, they're mowing your lawn. You didn't mow the lawn.
Yeah.
Not only that, but you killed the roses. No, I didn't. I'll be back next week and do it again.
Yeah.
You'd say, hit the door. Don't ever come back here again. With a politician, vote for me. I'm not lying to you anymore. It's like,
well, and once again, that brings us to the idea of policy and how these things are decided, and even when it comes to how police go about reporting things is decided by policy, things like that. So, the idea of making these things accessible to because that was a lot of the training when I met UFO or UAPPD at the MUFON symposium. What they were specifically doing was they're talking to the field investigator training course about taking a witness statement and how to feel out a witness as they're talking to you, things like that, body language, that kind of stuff. Are they being deceptive possibly while they're talking to you? Things like that, unless you've literally been interviewing people face to face, taking witness statements year after year after year for 20 years, that is a learned reflex.
Yeah.
And highly invaluable when it comes to this field.
Another trick that a lot of officers use, they'll ask you a question and you answer it. And they'll ask you a bunch of other questions. Then they'll answer that same question again.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're forgetful.
Yeah.
They just want to know, do you remember what you said?
Well, and this is quite literally a lot of the reason why I started Curious Research and the field investigator book that we made was so that you can write that information down as it happens in the field. Because unfortunately, if any good police officer will tell you once that hits beyond 48 hours, information starts deprecating. Somebody's experience now starts getting filtered through religious experience, life experience, lenses of experience change at that point.
Might go to sleep, have a dream about the incident, and wake up not realizing that's not quite how it happened.
You may actively see a TV show that feeds into your story somehow, because it's a similar experience. So it's interesting to see how people's stories change over time. And how the experiences change the person over time as well. In your time investigating this type of stuff, how frequently have you seen somebody's experience of something change over time in that kind of way?
A few times.
Because especially when it comes to experiences of the third and fourth kind with UFO, UAP, whenever it comes to up close and personal experiences with paranormal, that is a hypostatic change that happens in a person that can change what you fundamentally believe religiously, all kinds of things.
A lot of when we get up in the morning, we go through the day, we go to bed at night, we're not the same person that we were when we got up.
Yeah.
Things have happened. We've seen things. We've heard things. We now know things that we didn't know that morning.
Yeah.
When something major happens, you're out in your backyard, you look up and there's a flying saucer passing over, or you're out in the woods and you actually see a Bigfoot or a dog man. You encounter a ghost and you know that was a ghost. You know it wasn't something else.
Yeah.
You're no longer that same person.
Yeah.
You go from a believer to a knower. I've seen it. It's like, seen a ghost one time.
Yeah.
And it blew my mind.
Yeah.
It was the most boring. It was just, if it hadn't have been for the fact my wife was with me, she saw the same thing, I'd have just written it off.
Yeah.
Mistaken. The person looked solid. They looked real until they were no longer there. And all of a sudden I was like, whoa, wait a minute. If that wasn't a ghost, what was it?
What was it? Yeah, precisely. And it's that idea that belief implies faith And once you've experienced it, something beyond faith, you know. And I am somebody who, because of the experience, I do a lot of this show because of the experiences I've had in life, and because I guess I'd love something to disprove them to me. I've yet to find anything to disprove them to me. So to me, they are still absolutely and fundamentally real to me in the fabric of my reality, you know. And because of that, I am prone to believe the experiencer until proven otherwise. Now, I will still search for data. I won't just fully prima facie take somebody on their word. I'll investigate what I can investigate. And if it comes to the point that things mitigate other than what they've said, then I will take that with the grain of salt that it is and add that to the mixture, you know. But as an investigator, that's what we're called to do, you know. Unfortunately, a lot of people in various online communities think that the badge skeptic is some sort of nasty, horrible, dirty word, Chris.
Oh, it's because the people that use the word a lot, they have it in their title officially. They could shake hands with Bigfoot, and they would come up with this idea. Oh no, it's just some kind of costume, or it's like they could have a ghost walk right through them.
Yeah,
or they could be abducted by aliens, visit Pluto, come back. They would convince themselves, no, that was just a dream. It's just my imagination. It didn't really happen. That is a complete different kind of being than I care to deal with.
Yeah.
They convince themselves that the proof is not proof. And talk about a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
That's a conspiracy theory.
Yes, exactly. And it's one of those, you know, you're using the situation to pull your narrative to it. You know, it's one of the phrases I use on the show regularly is, oh no, conspiracy theorists are out there and we pay them. They're called district attorneys. Their job is literally to weave a story and take you down the path of a narrative. Of conspiracy, that somebody has conspired to commit a crime. Otherwise, we wouldn't have people convicted of conspiracy.
True.
You know? So they're obviously very real conspiracy theories. And the idea that, we fully, it's kind of a dangerous concept to know that our society is at a place of not only a want of confirmation of belief, Chris, but also at a place of cognitive dissonance, where when shown evidence to the contrary, you're still perfectly willing to hold on to that. You know, and that's one of the things that with Curious Realm we speak about regularly, the idea that, you know, just because your picture with the circle has been dismissed doesn't mean it's not still part of the scientific data set. It's still a very important part of the scientific data set. It's what we've called as a known quantitative. You know, which is an important thing. You have to be able to compare actual evidence of an anomaly against a known quantitative. So if your picture's been proved a known quantitative, still perfectly part of the scientific data set of the paranormal. It's just within the known quantitative realm, so it's going to help further prove the anomaly, you know?
Thing that really blows my mind is so many people are so focused on, we've got to get the scientific community on our side. We've got to be scientific. They might as well go buy them a white lab coat. Have you ever heard the term, the boys in the white lab coats?
Yeah. And, you know, I am of the mind that we need to at least have our stuff ready to shake hands with science. Because they're rapidly converging upon each other. Rapidly.
Some are, but there's still, you've got the old guard.
Oh, yeah.
Like the guys that run the Smithsonian. And,
sure.
The ones that are like, no, you can't see what's in our basement.
But you've got the Bigelow Institute on the other side, Bigelow Institute for Consciousness Studies, that did the whole paper. They did a whole research paper contest. Jeffrey Mishlev won that for possibilities of out-of-body next life experience, and then announced $1 million prize for whichever team could laboratory prove connection with the other side.
It sure would be nice if they'd release just a little bit of the information that they got.
They actively went through, and my copy arrived at my house yesterday. I got the shipping information, but you can actually order and contact the Bigelow Institute and get a copy of all of the consciousness studies paper.
I'm talking about what they got from Skinwalker
Ranch and things like that. It would be phenomenal.
UFO investigations that they did, and they're like, no, can't see this.
Iron fist holding it, and I think most of that is due to the fact that they're still under government contract with a lot of things when it comes to that. I'm pretty well convinced that what is there is more than likely a very, very large crashed asteroid, something along those lines, with a magnetic signature that's very extraordinarily large.
But it sure would be nice if they'd tell us something.
Yeah, and the thing is, they've obviously recorded a lot of anomaly over many, many years, and we're just starting to see some of that. And even the things coming out of Bradshaw Ranch, even the things coming out of Blind Frog Ranch right down the road.
They don't talk about Stardust Ranch, though.
Interesting. Not a whole lot. A whole lot.
I understand Bigelow was interested in Stardust, but it just kind of died on the vine, as it were.
Well, and, it's once again really interesting to see some of these scientific endeavors into this concept. The one thing that I keep bringing up over the last couple of years is quantum entanglement winning the Nobel Peace Prize, and how that goes back directly to the work of Hal Puthoff and what led to remote viewing and the idea of
staring at a goat and making its heart stop.
Well, us being quantumly connected. The idea of, no, really time is a construct. It's not an actual thing in physics. It's part of an equation, but it's totally relative to the observer, which means it's changing, it's malleable. Does it actually exist? It
can really cause headaches.
It can.
If you look into it too much, because that's when you get these guys that start up with that, if a tree falls in the
but it is interesting to see that, once again, these realms of science, scientific technology, and even dimensional science are starting to come right where the paranormal has been for decades.
Which makes me wonder, you've got these people, they believe in quantum physics, they believe in all these things, and you tell them, well, what about ghosts? Those aren't real.
And, and I am of the same mind as you. It's a little much for me, and that's one of the reasons why I say it on the show all the time, why I am a fan of the relabeling to UAP. Because, as soon as you label it phenomenon, now it is part of that scientific process.
To me, it's too much in 1984.
Well, for me, it's the fact of you now landed it directly in the backyard of science. I would not have made an A in chemistry if I could not account for the missing 5% of solution. Did it off-gas? Did it become sediment? Did it go to an exothermic reaction? I see 95% of your equation.
Mouse drank it.
But we've got 5% missing. Go find the anomaly now. That's the job of the scientist, is now to find not the known quantitative of the solution and the reaction, but what happened to the 5%. Because this keeps happening in the experiment. We keep losing 5%, so now you've got that anomaly that you have to search for. And that's kind of the job of science, is to search for that anomaly. When you put everything into a Kleenex box and just call it paranormal, it's hard for them to have an active interest in science,
You've got the paranormal people, and then you've got the scientists that will actually look into it.
Yeah.
And then you've got what I call the boys in the white lab coats. They're the ones that...
Nothing to do with it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And that's just it. And that's why it's interesting to see the fact that, yes, quantum physicists are interested in this side. The people dealing in quantum entanglement, things like that, very fascinated with this research.
Spooky matter at a distance.
Because it's things that literally alter the fabric of the universe. They alter the fabric of our understanding of the universe. And we know that other dimensions exist. That's been scientifically proven. So it's phenomenal to think that these things are literally ghosts, aliens, what have you, are literally adjunct to us at all times. It's just whether or not vibrationally they manifest here where we're at, or whether or not we vibrationally match where they're at to be able to see each other at the same time, No,
you hear a story about a person sees a ghost, and it's like the ghost just zips on by, not even aware they're being observed.
Yeah.
Then you hear another story where there was that plumber in England. Can't remember which part of England. And he saw a legion of Roman soldiers marching down the road.
Yeah.
And he said they were all staring at him like,
what the hell are you doing here?
Who's that guy digging the hole?
Yeah. Why don't you have a shield?
Why do some ghosts behave one way and others another?
Yeah, exactly. Why do some seem to be locked in some kind of time loop? Others do not. Some interact with the world around them. Others do not.
It's like the guy that me and my wife saw.
Well,
he didn't realize we were there. He was going from point A to point B, and we just happened to be standing to the side, and he went right past in front of us.
Wow.
And then disappeared.
Wow.
I don't know if that was a loop or what, because I've never heard anybody else report a similar sighting in that area. We're in a new hospital. He got on an elevator. The elevator never moved, but he was not in the cab when the door opened.
Yeah.
And it was only closed for like 2 seconds.
I sat in a hotel room at the Minger Hotel in San Antonio with a friend of mine. We came back. We prepped all the gear for an interview, went down to the bar to get a drink, came back. There was a single spot of blood on the bed. Not even joking. Single spot of blood on the bed. Was not there when we left. All white sheets. And it was like, okay, that's weird. We did an episode of his show in the room, took off our headphones, sat down with our drinks, and as we did, the crystal door handle to the bathroom turned and the door opened. Private bathroom, not a shared bathroom, nobody else in the room. So it's one of those, like, we were both there. We were both like, you saw that, right? Yes, I did. I said, hey, we're all cool with you, whatever you are. But I went down and started talking before I left at about 1 a.m., ended up talking with the security guard until about 4. And 70-year-old guy who'd been working night shifts for like 30 years at the Minger Hotel, and just, oh my God, the stories he told of people just leaving at 3 a.m. Like, we're done. We're out. Like, our bags are packed. We're supposed to check out 2 days from now. See you, dude. We're done with San Antonio. And it's interesting to see places like that are continuously going through that. And even one of the things that I posited regularly on the show, Chris, is especially the work of Hal Puthoff, that first paper that he put out that led to the work of remote viewing, the concept of what if scientists, while they go home and think about their experiment, are adversely affecting their experiment. The whole idea of, did I burn my house down because I keep thinking, did I leave the iron on? And you think it so much that the iron turns on and burns your house down. Could it be the fact that while people are preparing their equipment for an expedition, for a research night, things like that, that as you're thinking about the location, as you're thinking about stories, as you're thinking about, like, I've heard this, I've heard that, you may actively be psychically charging that atmosphere before you ever step into it.
Well, whenever we're doing an investigation, if it's a public event, guest event, we always ask who's scared. And if anybody says they're scared, they go first.
Yeah.
Because we're betting on the fact that their energy, their tension, their
will stir
beliefs,
something up.
Yes, will bring something to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, oh, you're the guy that's afraid of ghosts. Hi.
Yeah, you're the apprehensive one.
Yeah,
come lead us all. And yeah, even the idea of that, using that to stir the pot before you come in, it's the idea of, we may well be psychically charging that atmosphere before we ever step into it with an instrument.
It does make you wonder about, though, when you have ghost sightings or things in a place where there's never been a ghost sighting, brand new structure, there's no history, and the people having the sighting aren't thinking about it.
Yeah.
There's it was brand new, it's not new anymore. It was a sports arena in Laredo.
Okay.
It had been up a couple of years. The cleaning staff saw a woman walk into the bathroom on the second tier. And they're like, wait a minute, it's the middle of the night. What's she doing in here?
Yeah.
They went and they looked, and there's nobody in the bathroom. They heard the toilet flush. They heard the water come on. And the whole cleaning staff, they're all like...
So the ghost knew how to use indoor plumbing. There's a date point there and forward, you know.
It was a female, but what caused that?
Yeah, no,
because nobody's thinking ghost. Nobody's thinking, "Oh, this is a scary place."
Not an occupied property prior to just an open field,
cattle field.
Yeah, and what causes that, or who drags that along with them? And that's even an interesting concept. The idea of when things get connected with energy. That was the whole plot line of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, was the fact that this energy was attached to objects, and that objects could be a key to hauntings. And it's a hypothesis that's been put out there for a long time, the idea that something was so personal to somebody that it becomes imbued with their energy,
I try to avoid
becomes a point
antiques.
of connection.
I don't want antiques. I don't want somebody else's luggage.
Well, and it's funny, even it's something that we'll probably be discussing with Mitchell Whittington, because he goes into a lot of the funerary industry in America and things like that. And even the idea of not too long ago, man, or the change of parlor to living room. The idea of, we used to have home funerals. It was a very customary thing and very regular thing.
That's why houses had two doors.
Yeah, absolutely, and why you covered mirrors. Things
and you carried
like that
the body out
point of
first.
It just all these little things that our society has only, when you look at the scope of humanity, only recently spiritually changed in that way. So to think of that disconnection, especially when it comes to mourning, when it comes to a ghost possibly passing the way that they should, something like that, that plays a big part in it. I personally believe so. The fact that we get attached to each other, we get attached to items, things like that. Well, so
you hear about people that had a particular pet that they were very attached to, and that pet was very attached to them.
Yep.
The pet's no longer with them, and all of a sudden they've got evidence that it's still hanging around.
Oddly enough, we recently lost an elderly cat in our home. Been around for about 13 years. He was the older brother of our baby cat, who's only about 3 years old. Baby cat has never been a cuddler. He has never been a lap cat, anything like that. The big cat that we lost was my wife's baby. Like he crawled up on her. He was 20 pounds and still crawled up on her like he was a kitten. Within about a week of him passing, the other cat came and became a lap cat.
I've seen that happen.
And like he literally said, he passed calmly in the house with us surrounding him. Baby cat was there, and I am utterly convinced of the fact that he was like, you need to keep loving mom the way mom needs to be loved. This is how she, because he never crawled up on us ever before then, until now. And it's absolutely strange to see that behavior happen, where it's like suddenly he is a cuddled lap cat, where before he was never about it. And he won't do it to me, only to her.
I had a cat named Betty, tuxedo cat. She was the mystery cat. You knew she was in the house, but you never knew where she was. She was always hiding somewhere.
Yeah.
Gladys was the lap cat. When Gladys died, all of a sudden Betty had to sit in your lap all the time.
Yeah. And
before that, never saw her.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see that. It's interesting to see the way that's passed on, and the way that they mourn just like we do, and they see that. It's remarkable. Chris, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Let everybody know where they can go to get a hold of the Laredo Paranormal Investigative Society, where they can go to get a hold of you guys if there's a case, where they can go to get a hold of all your books.
Our website, the LPRS website, is Laredo Paranormal
Research.
Just Laredo Paranormal at, I think it's Gmail. Darn it. Can't remember. They're on Facebook.
Yeah.
Facebook Messenger will do the job.
Yeah, Google Laredo Paranormal Society and you will find him.
We don't, the email I don't know if hardly anybody ever even checks it anymore. It's been, nobody uses it.
Yeah.
Because nobody can remember what it is. If they want to hear more from me, I do a podcast once a week called Strange Things with Chris James. But you have to put the whole name in because there's 45 podcasts with strange things, yes. My books, you can find them on Amazon. There are probably a dozen Chris Jameses who write books. So the easiest way to find them is to type in Laredo Paranormal Research Society, and then all the other books are attached.
All right.
And my latest book, UFOs, it's just UFO stories.
Yeah, and some great stuff. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you having me.
Appreciate you coming on.
You bet.
Absolutely. While you are online checking out everything from Chris James and the Laredo Paranormal Research Society, folks, make sure to stop on by Curious Realm. CuriousRealm.com is where you can like, follow, subscribe, comment, share. That's where you can find the Curious Realm app, where you can tune in. You can also tune in on our Roku. We have a Roku app full of not only the episodes, but tons of binaural beat music that we make, all kinds of stuff. Stay tuned through this quick break. We'll be back with our continuing coverage of the Texas UFOCon right here in Jefferson after this, folks.
The key to good science is good research. At the heart of good research is a good data set. With the field observation and encounter log from Curious Research, you can easily keep track of your investigative information all in one place, making it easier to review cases and readily see comparisons and contrasts between them. Whether out in the woods squatching, in a back room gathering EVPs, or using high-tech gear to track UFO, UAP activity, this easy-to-carry, pocket-sized scientific data log is the perfect companion for any field researcher. You can find your copy of the Curious Research Field Observation and Encounter Log at Amazon.com or visit the official Curious Realm store at CuriousRealm.com/store to reserve your copy for yourself, your family, or a mind that you want to open. That website again is CuriousRealm.com/store.